Hi, my name is Teresa Lee. I am applying for the 5th grade social studies position at the intermediate school. The TEKS we're going to be looking at today, right here, history. The students understand political, economic, and social changes that occurred in the United States during the 19th century. And the students are expected to identify significant events and concepts associated with U.S. territorial expansion, including the Louisiana Purchase, the expedition of Lewis and Clark, and Manifest Destiny. Geography. The students understand the location and patterns of settlement and the geographic factors that influenced where people live. Students are expected to explain the geographic factors that influence the patterns of settlement and the distribution of population in the United States, past and present. Economics. Students understand patterns of work, economic activities in the United States. Students are expected to identify and explain how geographic factors have influenced the location of economic activity in the United States. Social studies skills. Students use problem-solving and decision-making skills, working independently and with others in a variety of settings. Students are expected to use a problem-solving process to identify a problem, gather information, list and consider options, consider advantages and disadvantages, choose and implement a solution, and evaluate the effectiveness of the solution, and use a decision-making process to identify a situation that requires a decision, gather information, identify options, predict consequences, and take actions to implement a decision. Today we're going to be looking at the growing pains of moving westward. The Louisiana Purchase, April the 30th, 1803. Now we're going to review a little bit about what we've already studied and see how it's connected to the Louisiana Purchase. As you remember, in 1776, the American Revolution began. It ended in 1781. Now, they didn't sign the peace treaty until September the 3rd, 1783. The United States was beginning to grow, began to look westward to grow towards the west. The Treaty of Paris gave the United States its boundaries. The southern boundary of Canada was the northern boundary of the United States. The northern boundary of Florida was the southern boundary, and the Mississippi River was the western boundary. Now let's take a look real quick at a map. This is what the United States looked like at the end of the Revolutionary War. 1783. Canada up here, Florida down here, and here's the Mississippi River. This was the United States. Now, they were wanting to grow. They needed to grow. Where were they going to grow to? Well, it's also the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Remember when we talked about that? We talked about how James Watt invented the steam engine in 1769, and how this gentleman, Oliver Evans, refined that engine to make it suitable to use in boats and in the mills. It really increased, remember, the Industrial Revolution and industrial work in the North. But there was a problem. The problem was transportation. They needed to move all these things that they were growing, that they were making. In the 1790s through the early 1800s, it was still cheaper to move things by water. But then the steamboat was invented, and things became a lot easier. Transportation still being a problem. How could they move things? They either had to move it across the land to the East Coast or down the river. Okay? They needed new roads. They needed new water routes. Let's look at it again. All right, so we have all things being made, being created here in the United States. They had to either go down the Mississippi to the port of New Orleans, so then they could ship it around to the East Coast or to wherever they were taking it, or move it across the land. Of course, moving across the land with the mountains here in the east was quite expensive. Still easier to move down the Mississippi River. Now, Thomas Jefferson had some good ideas. He wanted to grow the country. He wanted to make things easier, make things better. Now, He was president from 1801 to 1808. At the same time, Napoleon was the emperor in France. He had control of all the land west of the Mississippi, including the port of New Orleans. At this time, he decided that he was going to close that port, so all of the product that was going down the Mississippi River had no place to go. He wasn't allowing them to then move that stuff from the river to a ship to go to the east. What were they going to do? Well, President Jefferson decided that he was going to purchase New Orleans. This is the Louisiana Purchase. New Orleans is here. So let's, again, everything had to go down the Mississippi to the port of New Orleans. This was now closed. Nobody could access this land right here. Jefferson had an idea. He told his minister to Paris, right here, Robert Livingston, to purchase New Orleans. That would work. Have that port, be able to transport everything. Well, Livingston decided that maybe it would be better if he bought the whole Louisiana territory. So he asked Napoleon about that. Well, Napoleon, he was a little bit strapped for cash, so he decided that that would be okay, that he would sell all the Louisiana territory to the United States. Does anybody know how much they paid for all that land? You know? Believe it or not, it was only $15 million. Remember, let's see, there it is. All this land right here, $15 million. Now, there were good things about that. Now the United States could move to the west, and they would be able to have new lands. Now, we'll talk about Lewis and Clark tomorrow. They were a team of explorers that explored all this area.